Hello, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, the pleb is back in this report. Well, the Liberals finally admit defeat, as Trudeau had a press conference today where he admitted that he completely screwed up immigration in Canada and is now forced to reduce the amount of immigrants that are coming into this country. You won't want to miss this report. Stick around. Before we start this report, please double check if you're still subscribed. I'm currently being shadow banned here on YouTube, and people are having a hard time finding my videos or getting notifications for my latest videos. So if you want to help me and support the real news, please smash subscribe and let's start the report. Well, folks, I have some really good news for you today, and it goes a little something like this. The Trudeau government are slashing immigration, folks. Yes. In a country that has a housing crisis, in a country that has a healthcare crisis, the Trudeau Liberals have finally thrown in the towel and admitted defeat and are going to slash immigration. Now, I know you guys don't like listening to Trudeau, but I gotta show you guys a Trudeau clip here. And don't worry, it's only 41 seconds, and it's actually very satisfying because in this clip, Trudeau is going to admit he screwed up. So watch.
Announced measures to cap international student permits and reform the temporary foreign worker program, all of which we are implementing with a single aim: stabilize our population growth to give all levels of government time to catch up, time to make the necessary investments in healthcare, in housing, in social services to accommodate more people in the future. Our immigration system.
So you want to fix these things to bring in more immigrants, like healthcare, like housing. What about fixing these things for Canadians? You're only fixing this so you can bring more immigrants? Do you even care about Canadians?
Has always been responsible, and it has always been flexible.
He just called his immigration policy responsible. So man.
So we are acting today. Because in the tumultuous times as we emerged from the pandemic, between addressing labor needs and maintaining population growth, we didn't get the balance quite right.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Trudeau admits he up. He says they didn't get the balance quite right. Well, no kidding.
Addressing labor needs and maintaining population growth, we didn't get the balance quite right.
Satisfying. Look, I'm a fan of immigration. I don't mind immigration at all. I think it should be a tool that we use as a country to acquire talent. But we shouldn't be flooding our country with immigrants when Canadians can't even get access to healthcare in this country with one of the most expensive healthcare systems in the entire world. This really pisses me off. Also, why are we bringing people here when we don't even have houses for them? Also, why are we bringing people here when there's record food bank usage in this country, when we're seeing tent cities where we never seen them before? I'm all for immigration, but we gotta fix Canada first and take care of Canadians before we start bringing new people in. And another thing, if you guys notice, it's not that big of a cut. He's going from 485,000 to 395,000. He's only cutting 90,000 immigrants. He's only cutting immigration by like 20%. And that, honestly, is way, way, way too low. And yes, Table Salt agrees with me here, saying it's still too high. It is. He's only reducing it by 20%. We should be reducing it by 100% until this country is fixed, and then we can reopen immigration. This country is a bloody mess. And for those of you who want to know how bad immigration is here in Canada and how badly Trudeau screwed up the entire immigration system, Member of Parliament here put out a video, Arpan Canna, pretty base conservative, exposing just how bad Trudeau messed up immigration. Let's go watch. This video is pretty damn good. Let's sit through this one together and watch.
Continue to pursue our policies of openness.
Okay, I think it's time we have an honest conversation on immigration.
I don't want to make this a hyper-partisan issue, but it's important we hold those responsible accountable for their actions. I think it's time in Canada we have an honest discussion on our immigration system, where we look at our past, where we were, where we are today, and the path forward. I want to take this back to 2015 and our system back then. Back then, we had a system that was responsible, that was lawful, that was the envy of the world. Canada was a land of opportunities where you came to this country, you worked hard, you played by the rules, you could achieve that Canadian dream.
I mean, no one has any problem with legal immigration. Come here like they used to. Fill out the paperwork. Don't try to scam your way in through fake diplomas. Do it the right way, and we have no problem with that. And under Harper, it was done the right way.
Fast forward to today. We are seeing an immigration system under Justin Trudeau that is full of corruption,
Look at that.
fraud, abuse, and chaos.
All the
Students
fake
are graduating from programs that are not particularly valuable in the labor market. Essentially, we're using the international student program as a source for cheap, exploitable, expendable, temporary labor.
If you look at the rate of growth in Canada, just last year, we had a growth rate of over 3%. That is the highest since the 1950s. Sean Fraser, the former immigration minister himself, now housing minister, has admitted to be losing 1 million people. If you wonder if this is sustainable, it's not.
How the hell do 1 million people go missing? Only the Trudeau government, I swear.
Hearing stories of newcomers lining up at our food banks in record numbers.
We were kind of overwhelmed by how many groups were showing up day after day.
We have heard numerous stories of international students, 25 of them, living in a one-bedroom basement.
So we are just one floor, and we are 9 people on that floor. In the basement, it's like 6 people in the basement. So it's like 15 people in just one house, which is crazy.
They're coming to Canada for that hope, and they don't see that hope. Don't take my word for this. Let me tell you what Justin Trudeau himself has said. This is his words. Whether it's the temporary foreign workers or whether it's international students in particular that have grown at a rate far beyond what Canada has been able to absorb. He wants to bring this back under control. And the implication of him saying that he has to bring it under control is that it's out of control right now. If you look at Justin Trudeau and his team for the last 9 years, they've had 5 separate immigration ministers, and then each of them are blaming their predecessors for their government's own failure. Canada's immigration problem.
I mean, that's a theme with the Liberals. They blame Harper for everything that goes wrong in 2024. This is what they do. They deflect responsibility. They never accept it.
Let's go all the way back probably to when Trudeau first took office. But if you're looking for a specific time and date when this actually spiraled out of control, was probably in 2017. If you remember, Justin Trudeau put a tweet out saying everyone is welcome to our country after Donald Trump had just won the election down south. What did that do for Canada? One was the famous Roxham Road border crossing that put immense pressure on our immigration system. It increased backlogs, it increased the cost of processing, and took away resources from lawful immigration to our country. And the costs are being pushed on to our municipalities like Toronto, Montreal, who are asking the federal government for millions and millions of dollars to fund this problem.
They're dragging their heels. We're having to beg them every day for funding for the asylum seekers.
In this video, we're going to be looking at immigration from 3 different perspectives. We're going to be looking at it from a housing viewpoint, we're going to be looking at it from unemployment side of things, and we have to look at it from our integrity of our system.
Yeah. Bringing in ISIS fighters.
I got
into
some
this
terrible
country.
news today. The average mortgage payment in Canada has now risen to $3,500. I had been saying that housing costs had doubled under Justin Trudeau. It's now far worse than that.
I want you to guess how many houses we have built last year here in Canada. Was it
200K.
2 million?
200K.
$1 million? Maybe $500,000?
200K.
Nope. Last year, we only built 240,000
Exactly.
homes. That's it. 240,000 homes. Now, when you're losing 1 million temporary residents and you're only building 240,000 homes, that puts a pressure on our housing system. I want to be very...
It's what we call liberal math, Arpan. Liberals are not very good with numbers or math, and this has been proven over time.
Very clear. I am not placing blame on immigrants for our housing crisis our country is facing, but we can't ignore that pressure this rapid growth has on our housing system. Sean Fraser's own officials warned him that his immigration policies were putting pressure on housing, and he ignored their warnings. When you bring in 1.2 million newcomers to this country, but only build a third of the houses, you put pressure on the system. That is simple math. And we're seeing the consequences of that. We have heard numerous stories of international students, 25 of them, living in a one-bedroom basement. We're seeing rent double, we're seeing mortgage payments double. We've seen the amount needed for a down payment has doubled. Despite Mark Miller announcing a cap on international students, so far in 2024, we have outpaced the growth of permits from last year.
It is unhealthy to link housing to the volume of people that are coming here to seek refuge and asylum.
Growth that we're seeing, it's not fair to newcomers who are coming to Canada for that dream, and it's not fair to Canadians who have been here for generations.
Agreed.
Folks, I'm not in the business of agreeing with the Liberals, but in this instance, I think Justin Trudeau is right. We cannot absorb this rate of growth, and there is chaos in our system. On one hand, we have an immigration system that is putting pressure on our housing system. We have a housing crisis. But now let's look at the temporary foreign workers, a program the Liberals have destroyed and gutted. In farming communities like mine, TFWs play an important role in supporting our farmers who produce our food. However, if you look at the low wage stream, since 2015, we have seen a 200% increase in the low wage stream for temporary foreign workers.
Oh, this is a slave program. Nice, all the lowest paying jobs on the increase.
The low wage stream for temporary foreign workers. This is a way for corporations to use cheap labor from outside of Canada to fill jobs at their local Tim Hortons or the gas station around the corner. It is a way for big corporations to suppress the wages of Canadians and find cheap labor from outside the country.
Facts.
In the temporary foreign worker program, we are seeing employers selling labor market impact assessments to potential employees, trying to give them a backdoor entry to our country. And now we see newcomers being forced to work in abusive situations and workplaces.
A scathing UN report calls Canada's temporary foreign worker program a breeding ground for modern-day slavery, claiming they can foster exploitation where employers can control workers' access to housing, healthcare, and their migration status.
We have international students coming to our country for programs that we don't need in schools that don't exist, but instead are working. That's not what this program was created for.
She arrived here being told that there would be in-class instruction, only to discover on her first day of class as she showed up that the entire course would be taught online. And she couldn't understand why she had spent all that money for an online program.
The international student program is so broken where we have colleges like Conestoga College using the program as a cash grab. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars on the backs of international students.
Sick.
Public colleges and universities, not private ones, are driving the rapid increase in international students across the country.
And this has serious consequences. We have seen a spike in our youth unemployment numbers. The program was never intended to be used this way. This isn't fair to that newcomer or to that Canadian youth. This is just utter chaos.
Yep.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. There is new info.
Yes, now let's get into the part where Trudeau is bringing people in this country who hate us with ties to terrorism, who don't integrate. Yeah, let's talk about the unsafe people. I have a problem with this.
Information tonight on how Canadian authorities became aware of a father and son who have been accused of being in the advanced stages of planning a terrorist attack in Toronto.
The most important aspect we have to take a look at is the integrity and security of our immigration
those are
system.
just Trudeau. You see Trudeau, no problem. They look fine. Trudeau would have no problem bringing people like this into the country. You're racist if you don't want this to come to Canada.
Our immigration system has a fundamental responsibility that those coming to Canada are vetted and cleared by their government officials, that Canadians will remain safe. For example, we had a man who was allowed to enter Canada despite the fact that this individual was in an ISIS video torturing another individual and then was given Canadian citizenship. And now we find out that he was at advanced stages of plotting a terrorist attack in our country. Can you believe that?
I mean, this is Trudeau would call this cultural enrichment. These people right here. This makes this enriches your culture, ISIS fighters.
Of plotting a terrorist attack in our country. Can you believe that? We didn't catch this guy until mere hours before he was about to commit a terrorist attack in Toronto.
They were charged with having
How the hell did he get into the country in the first place? How did he get in?
In other words, we're pretty confident how close they were to moving from simply having those tools and then moving on to actioning that threat. I don't want to say imminent as, again, it's within an hour or two, but it was close.
Situations like this undermine the entire immigration system. Our immigration system does not ask for police clearance certificates from temporary residents coming to our country. We cannot say for sure how many terrorists have entered Canada. Mark Miller tried lying about this to the media as well. He was asked by the media, do temporary residents get background checks done? He lied to the media and said, yes.
Generally speaking, if someone were on a student visa, would there be criminal record checks?
Yes.
There would be?
Yeah.
And then how does that process work?
You check them, and if they have a criminal record, they don't come in.
Okay.
Since 2018, police clearance certificates are not mandatory for temporary residents. Either he was lying to Canadians, or he is so incompetent he doesn't understand his own file.
I mean, it could be both. He's either lying or he's incompetent. I mean, either option sounds pretty believable.
At the end of the day, there seems to be a common trend that we're seeing. Each of the government programs are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. When Justin Trudeau came to power in 2015, he inherited a world-class immigration system. A system that brought in the brightest, the best, that when you came to this country, you could buy a home, you'd buy a decent car, work in your dream job. But after that, after his government, it's all gone. We have immigrants telling other immigrants now not to come to Canada.
Wow.
Because of the rising housing costs,
you don't want to come to Canada. Stick around in your country where there's garbage everywhere. It's better than Canada. Imagine that.
Pressure when it comes to affordability, the crime they're seeing in our neighborhoods. They're warning them that the country that once was the greatest country in the world no longer exists.
What is the biggest thing you regret in life?
I regret in life? I regret coming to Canada. 20 years here just paying rent and nothing. It tells me Canada is just a trap.
The desperate liberals who are now struggling in the polls are running around making new announcements on immigration. But even the Bank of Canada doesn't buy it. They don't buy that they'll be able to meet these temporary resident goals that the new Minister of Immigration is setting. If you want integrity in our immigration system, it starts with accountability. And the funny part is that they're blaming each other. They're pointing fingers. It was Fraser's fault.
Of course, this is all they do. They point fingers. They're never responsible for anything. This is the left in general. It's not just immigration. They do this on everything. Every screw up, they blame it on the previous conservatives. It's their liberal playbook. It's why I don't trust them.
Or it was Mark Miller's fault, or it was Menachino's fault.
Yeah. The international student program in particular has grown just in the last couple of years by hundreds of thousands of people each year. There are some institutions in different parts of this country that I have the sincerely held belief have come to exist just to exploit the program for the personal financial gains of the people behind some of these schools, if we can call them that.
They're not taking ownership for the problems that they have created. That's not leadership. They have broken a world-class immigration system. Think of the type of person that has to uproot their families, pack their bags, sometimes come to a country not knowing anyone, not knowing the climate. Trust me, they don't come here for the weather, but they come here with that hope, that optimism, that entrepreneurial spirit. and the shared values of faith, family, and freedom, so they can succeed and have a better life for themselves and for the next generations. That is what Canada was built on, that entrepreneurial spirit. And this is why we had a world-class immigration system, because it didn't matter where you came from, what language you spoke, what God you worshiped. You came to Canada, you worked hard, you played by the rules, you could achieve that Canadian dream. And under Justin Trudeau and his liberal ministers, this doesn't exist anymore. And that is heartbreaking. This shouldn't be a controversial conversation. We need an immigration system that is lawful, is responsible, and has integrity, and that one that works for both newcomers and for Canadians. It's time we bring back common sense to our immigration system with lawful, responsible immigration.
Agreed. Good video, Arpan. I like your stuff. Look, when it comes to immigration, I think it's a beautiful thing when it's done properly, but unfortunately, nothing Trudeau or his government ever does properly. And it's kind of sad now that their terrible immigration policies are making people have a negative view on immigrants. It's not the immigrants' faults. It is our government's fault for setting them up for failure, honestly. And when it comes to immigration, I'll put it in a simple way, all right? I'm all for immigration as long as we get better as a country. Treat Canada like a sports team that is going to try to make itself stronger. So you're going to sign players, sign free agents, acquire talent in order to win the championship. But Canada is not acquiring real talent. We're actually acquiring worse players and making our country weaker. Let's treat immigration as a way to upgrade this country, make us stronger, more talent, bring us the nurses, doctors, engineers, computer developers, scientists. I mean, bring us the smart people. I'm all for it. But we gotta stop this scamming. All right, guys, I wanna hear from you now. Tell me in the comments down below, is 20% reduction in immigration enough? Is it a small band-aid on a giant wound? How do you guys feel about these immigration cuts? Do you wanna see more immigration, less immigration? Tell me in the comments down below. If you want to support my channel, you know what to do. Like, share, comment, subscribe, or you can buy a $5 membership. My name is The Pleb, and I'll see you at the next report. Peace.